do it.
Oh. So, hi everyone, how are you today? So, thank you for joining us in this live Q&A in celebration of Lupus Awareness Month. So, my name is Chanpri. I'm the Social Media and Projects Officer at Lupus UK. And today we are joined with Olympic pathway athlete and representative of the Jamaican Olympic Association National Karate Team and one of our amazing Lupus UK ambassadors. Please welcome Alton Brown.
Hey, do I clap for myself?
Oh, for you.
I'm joking. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Nice one. Thank you, Shampri. I'm really glad that you could join me on today's as well. Actually,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to be here. It's good to be able to share.
Yes.
Although always nerve-wracking, it's nice to kind of do my part really, just to help raise awareness about lupus and just to kind of switch that narrative really, looking at positive stories instead of what you might expect, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, we're really excited about that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are excited for today as well. We've been posting it for the last week and I've had emails of people saying, yeah, I can't wait to watch it. So this is brilliant.
Okay. Nice. Brilliant, brilliant.
First for us as well.
Oh, is it really? Okay,
Yes,
good,
yeah.
good. So,
Our
okay,
first
we're
is
the...
InstaLive, so we're doing it together.
I like it. Well, welcome to my front room.
Nice.
Yeah, I can see some new people coming on as well.
Yeah.
Kate Kalzinski, good to see you.
Hi, everyone.
Good to see you, Kate. Welcome. Okay, over to you.
Okay, so Alton, to kickstart off our live today, would you like to share your journey with us? Who is Alton Brown and what do you do?
Sure. Many things is the answer to that question. Many things. So basically, for this capacity, I am an athlete, like you said. I represent Team Jamaica. I am 36 years old, and I've been doing this sport in terms of sport karate for well over 20 years now. So I started when I was 12, but actually started competing internationally from the age of 17.
Wow.
And that was for the English national team. But again, between that period of like 15 to 17, it took me quite a while to try and break out onto the national circuit, if you like.
Yes.
To actually get a chance to compete internationally, because, you know, competition within English karate is fierce.
Yeah, I can
and historically was really intense. And, you know, to make it onto the national team, you really had to take out some heavyweights to earn your spot. And then really in the last 4 years, I've transferred over to compete for Jamaica.
Yes.
And just the experience has just been absolutely incredible, to be honest, really incredible. And like now I find myself competing for Jamaica almost as an athlete, but also as an ambassador.
Yes.
And doing a lot of work around trying to kind of build a pathway, if you like, for other athletes that are coming up behind not only just myself, but my teammates, Kenneth Edwards, Jessica Cargill, Valentina Zolotarova, and, you know, really just trying to set the bar, you know, and really make sure that with the time we have left as athletes, that we've got a bit of an opportunity to kind of support that next generation, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's what you do. And I mean, at 17 to represent internationally, that's just crazy. That's amazing.
It's quite interesting because it was quite with the club that I came from. Like I grew up in East London.
Yeah.
So basically, the instructor that I had, really cool instructor called Joe Anderson. He used to run the association and competitions kind of right throughout the east of London.
Yeah.
So competing was his thing. You couldn't be a part of that club and not compete. You know, the two went hand in hand. But one thing that was really good about it was the fact that he really took us abroad quite a lot. So like from the age of about 14, 15, I was traveling to different countries and competing and getting some great experiences in that you wouldn't typically associate with a 14, 15-year-old kid growing up in East London, you know? It just, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So now I'm still living in London, although I represent Jamaica. I still live in London. I'm a father. I have two young girls.
Yeah.
who are incredible, like a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. We live in North London, and I also work in the arts as well, really. So that's the other side of what I do. Like, it isn't just sport. So I do sport. I like to think of myself as a full-time athlete, but I'm not. I'm part-time,
Yeah.
competing against athletes who are predominantly full-time, but still holding my own, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But the work that I do in the arts is like, I've literally started a new job. I'll talk a bit about that. But as we came into lockdown, but historically working in the arts, but from the creative aspects and working with young people, giving them experiences of like world-class art forms,
Yeah.
you know, organizations like the National Theatre, the Royal Opera House, the South Bank Centre, and just kind of supporting their education programs really to really reach out to young people, community groups,
Yeah.
older people, you know. Yeah, so that's a bit about me.
Brilliant. Very inspiring.
Thank you. Hard too, hard work, but yeah, enjoying it.
Enjoying it. That's the main. You can see how you enjoy it. Like, you can just see it from like the way you're talking. You can just feel that energy. It's amazing.
Oh yeah, I'm doing something right then. Yeah.
Oh.
Oh gosh. But yeah.
Okay, so you
Brilliant.
are an ambassador for our charity. You represent our
Yeah.
charity so well. I mean, I believe you met our now CEO, Paul Howard, at one of our lunch
Mm.
events last year in September. You got to meet him and you got to meet some of our trustees. How was that?
It was brilliant, honestly. Like for me, like I said, the reason why I wanted to be a part of Lupus UK, as an ambassador, was just I remember like when I first found out I had lupus, and just that period of time leading up to diagnosis.
Yeah.
Really, you know, it didn't you didn't have to look far online to actually see stories which were about people being in pain, but were kind of framed in the negative sense.
Yeah.
But I really like what Lupus UK was doing, you know, in terms of raising awareness, in terms of all the support that they offer,
Yeah.
all the publications, the resources, the stories online, positive. You know, I wanted to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And just is generally who I am, to be honest. I like to be a part of a positive narrative.
Yeah.
And this really, for me, was a bit of an opportunity to do that, not just for myself, and to kind of use my experience with lupus to kind of, you know, develop my own understanding of, you know, what it is, the illness that I have.
Yeah.
But also actually just to try and help inspire others, you know. I'm quite a big fan of that kind of collective success, almost that team success, if you like.
Yeah.
And actually, the idea of having those positive stories out there of people who have lupus, but actually don't allow it to, or haven't allowed it to kind of stop them from chasing their dreams and their goals.
Yeah.
No matter how small they are, you know, in small ways, are still pushing forward and achieving the things that they want to do, you know.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to be a part of that, really. And so, yeah, to attend that event, actually, to meet Paul and the team was really, really interesting, and just gave me a bit of a fresher insight, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know, everything from what Lupus UK was doing as an organization to actually down to medication.
Yeah.
And actually the rationale behind taking medication and what that meant for me.
Yeah.
As an athlete. I actually came out of that event because there was a period of time that I wasn't taking any medication to help manage my lupus. But on the back of that event, it really got me thinking about, you know what, this isn't just about using the medication to kind of support my way of living right now. It's about the long-term effects of having lupus and what that can entail.
Yeah.
And it got me thinking really just about the quality of life that I want for me, for my family, for my, you know, my children, and yeah. So it was really, really interesting actually, and just great to meet the team. And yeah, since being an ambassador,
Yeah.
you know, you guys have made me feel welcome, that's for sure. And I'm glad I'm doing a good job.
Our team. I mean, the main aim is that we empower everyone. We make sure that lupus patients know that they can achieve their goals, like what you said. No matter how big or small they are, we are there to help them, support them in any way that they can, and give them the correct information. Because sometimes people, when they're newly diagnosed, they go onto Google and they type in lupus, and then they come up, it's so many things that come up, and then people get overwhelmed, and then they, you know, it's good that they reach out to us and we can explain things in a much simpler form, and for them to understand, like, it's important to take your medication, it's important to have your rest days, to take time out for yourself. You know, all of these things impact your mental health, your well-being, and you need to make sure that you are okay.
Definitely. It's important, right? It's honestly, and just that collective kind of knowing that you're not going through it alone, you
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
knowing you're not going through it alone, because it can be really tricky within the system of healthcare, if you like, to actually come to a diagnosis, you know,
Yeah.
like I was saying. Although I started having symptoms back in 2009, it wasn't until 2011 that I actually was diagnosed with lupus.
Yeah.
And even then, the first kind of diagnosis was like mixed connective tissue disease.
Yes. Yeah.
So like a combination of many. But actually, a year after that, you know, a rheumatologist said to me, "No, you have lupus. You know, you definitely have, it's lupus that you have."
Yeah.
And so, you know, just that whole journey of not understanding what it was that I was experiencing as an individual, what was going on with my body. You know, like I often say to my friends, when I first discovered, well, when I started to have symptoms of lupus, I was actually preparing for a European Championships, and I just remember coming out of the gym at night, you know, staying in my parents' flat in Walthamstow, London, and like what had been a light session in the gym,
Yeah.
really light, felt like I'd just gone 2 or 3 rounds with Mike Tyson, you know? And so literally, like for the athletes that are watching, um, just that feeling of like, you know, coming out of the gym and not being able to move my neck, not being able to turn sideways, muscle soreness, like, you know, you've just fevers, that feeling for the karate athlete watching anyway of kicking somebody's elbow in competition, and that feeling you get for the week afterwards as a result, just having that because you've woken up in the morning and that's the way your body feels. And like getting your head around that was quite a challenge in the early days, you know?
Yeah.
I remember crawling up the stairs at night at one point to get to the bathroom because I was in that much pain.
Yeah.
And, you know, until I did actually go on the medication, you know, it was a challenging time, put it that way. But it made a massive difference, you know, when I first went onto medication.
Yeah.
And just allowed me to be able to continue doing the things I wanted to do.
Brilliant.
You know, continue training, continue competing. I felt like I had much more control over what I was able to do.
Yeah.
And it wasn't my body dictating what I had to do. It was me that was actually saying, you know what, I know I'm in pain right now, but we're going to do this anyway. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's certain things I wouldn't negotiate with. It was like, yeah, we're going to that competition. We're going to attend that event. And for me, really, I knew it was about mindset wise. And I suppose one thing I'd say to the people that are listening is knowing what works for you.
Yeah.
It's knowing your triggers in terms of what you are able to go on and do. And for me, it was very much about getting myself to the event and knowing that actually everything else would take over.
Yeah.
You know, the adrenaline would kick in. As long as I got through that warm up and I got onto the mat, I didn't have to worry about anything else because it would be autopilot, if you like, from there.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah.
And it's really important, like you said, you need to know what works for you. You need to know the kind of mental barriers that you may have and how you can push through them. Or if you need help, someone to help you alongside to help you get there. It's really important that you understand that about yourself. I mean, so like you said that you had pain management, that was one of your symptoms. Were there any other kind of symptoms that you had that impacted your competing, your karate, even your daily job?
In terms of my job, not so much, but there have been many times, like over the years, really, where, and this is something I'm getting much better at now, is actually feeling confident and comfortable with having a conversation with your boss at work about the fact that you have lupus.
Yeah.
And, you know, and what that means to, you know, from my perspective and what that means from their perspective. And, you know, I think in the early days, it was very much me feeling like I had to put their mind at ease. That, well, don't worry, I can still do my job. I can still do da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
But right now, to be honest, I feel much more empowered to be open and honest about my illness, you know. again, from a Lupus UK perspective, there are loads of resources online to help employees
Yeah.
to support their employers, you know. And literally in lockdown, I started a brand new job, and that was one of the first conversations we had, you know, after I was given the position, was actually, okay, I have this illness. This is some advice and some information on how you could support me as an employee to better do my job. And it was brilliant. It was brilliant. And they were totally open to it. And the fact that I could point them in the direction of Lupus UK's website and a link to this resource, it just made that transition so much smoother, you know?
Yes.
As for other symptoms, like, and how it presents itself now for me, I'd say out of a 4-week period, I probably have at least 1 week, kind of 5 to 7 days where I have a flare up,
Okay.
which will generally be muscle aches, soreness, maybe a few kind of fever type symptoms, joint aches that I just have to manage, to be honest. I just have to, again, to a certain extent, negotiate with my body over what is possible to do for me to do today, you know?
Yeah.
I don't try to think of it too big. I just take it one step at a time.
Yeah.
What can I do right now? You know, and be patient, like you were saying, with yourself about actually, you got to take it easy on yourself. If you need a break, you need a break.
Yeah.
You know, if you need a rest, if you need a down day, then it is about listening to your body, being in touch with your body, and actually making those decisions. And I know from an athlete's perspective, it can be quite tricky doing that because you've got coaches that you have to be accountable to.
Yeah.
You have training partners that you're accountable to. But one thing I found actually is again, being open and honest about how you're feeling for the day.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like I'm totally able to do that now. For example, I might go to the club for a training session and actually just not feel on form. Feel like I'm having a flare up and I just need to I need to take it easy, but at the same time I want to do this session. I want to train, I want to continue developing towards that goal, the goals that I have. Yeah. Especially knowing that competition is coming up. You know, we've got a lot of deadlines, a lot of dates in the diary. But what I find is if I'm open with my coach about it, what he typically will tend to do is he won't make an allowance, which I like. I like the fact that the bar is still set high.
Yeah.
But once I put it out on the table, I feel like quite often what happens is that I overperform anyway. And for me, it's just a bit of a mental thing. As long as I put it out on the table and I've said my part, if, for example, the session isn't the type of session that I wanted to have, then we can have that conversation about it.
Yes, yeah.
But failing that, I'm going to do my damnedest to like work as on the level of an elite athlete and produce the results and the outcomes that I expect of myself and that I know my coach expects of me, you know? So again, like as of late, I just feel so much more empowered to do that, you know? And just even down to things like this with Lupus UK and having more information, more awareness online around what is available, what lupus is.
Yeah.
You know, I think in the early days, there was a point when I thought me feeling sick was actually in my mind because flare-ups would come and they would go.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
I mean,
yeah, you go for it.
I was just going to say, you know, like flare-ups, it just depends on the individual. Some people, they can have a flare-up for a day, a couple of hours, and then some people it goes on for months as well. So I think it's really great that you discuss this with the employer, you discuss this with your coach, because like you said, it's kind of like a relief, you know, it's there. Like they are aware of it. If you are not feeling a certain type of way that day, at least they know, they're aware, they're there if you need the support or not, you know.
Exactly.
It's really great. And with us providing those in booklets for the employees and the employers, you know, it gives you an opportunity to know about the rights that you have and then the support that employers must provide for you. And I think that's really important because day in, day out, we do have questions from lupus patients saying, oh, I want to continue with my job, but I'm not too sure how my employer is going to take it if I've just been newly diagnosed. You know, it's great that you can provide that help and then people feel reassured that they can go to the employer and speak to them and get the help that they need.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mine have been really good, actually, just even in terms of one of the things that I do just generally as an athlete, but also just for maintenance of my body, is actually regularly see a physiotherapist and
Yes.
regularly see like a masseuse. And they've been really great about actually just giving me the space to do that. If I need a couple of hours out of
Yeah.
my schedule to pop up the road, half an hour drive, actually do my physio appointment or my massage and come back, it's
Yes.
fine. And that was like, that's a game changer for me. I'm like, so you no longer have to try and squeeze it in when and where you can, but actually it's totally legitimized to say, actually, I need an hour out of the office to go and do that, and it's okay. And that's been really good. And I find the more you talk about it, the more you realize that actually people know, like a lot of people have had experience with lupus, either themselves or within their own families
Yeah.
or their friendship circles, which, when we had World Lupus Day the other day, we did a bit of a coffee meeting,
Yes.
which was really, really interesting, actually, really good. But it was just amazing how many people around the table actually came out and said, my sister had this when she was younger, this happened to this person here. And, you realize it's more common than people think,
Oh,
and it is about raising that awareness, because it's a common thing.
personally for me, I remember when I joined Lupus UK 4 years ago, I mentioned to one of my friends, I was like, oh, I work for Lupus UK, and she never told me before she had lupus. That was one thing she kept. And then after she told me, and I was like, oh my God. Like,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know someone, you just don't know if they tell you or not, or they have a family member. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is incredible. I mean, and now I think she feels more comfortable to talk to other people and tell people about her condition. And I think it's brilliant because you're raising awareness, you're making other people aware of, how things can affect you. And, people should be mindful when we go out. We should, we provide that support for everyone and think
Definitely.
about things like certain things you're doing. I mean, like now, for instance, with COVID, I mean, how did you find it during lockdown? How were you coping?
It has been eventful, put it that way. For us, from an athlete perspective, like COVID kind of and lockdown meant that competition, basically, in order to get to the Olympic Games, you have to compete in a certain number of Olympic qualification events, and they take place literally every month in another country around the world. So the schedule, the pace is quite a busy one.
Yeah.
And when we kind of went into lockdown, all of that just stopped. I think I was actually at Stansted Airport with my coach about to fly out. And it was like, I got a call from the Norwegian Olympic Karate Federation who said, actually, our training camp that we were about to head out to, we're not going to do that because everything's going into lockdown, et cetera, et cetera. So we came back to London, but literally every event stopped. The Olympic Games, of course, was postponed until next year.
Yeah.
Hopefully that still takes place. For us as karate athletes, it's really important because it's the first time karate's ever been in the Olympic Games, so it's quite a historic moment.
Yeah.
But we literally took our children out of school just to kind of make sure that we were safe, they were safe as well, and that was slightly ahead of the government's kind of school closure procedure. Again, like I started a new job during lockdown, so that was working from home, so we were homeschooling.
Yeah, that's been a lot.
Of course, all the karate clubs, sport-wise, closed. And so literally we were here at home isolating as a family. Me and my wife both working full-time still and homeschooling. It was stressful. It was stressful. But it's quite interesting because like one of the things that really kind of helped me was having some structure.
Yeah.
And like really, really having some structure in terms of firstly a training program. Like it was really, really useful actually to have what I would call like accountability partners.
Okay.
So myself, a female athlete from Great Britain, a male athlete, Jordan Thomas from Great Britain as well, my New Zealand as well, Amy Thomason. We literally came together as a team and trained 5 days a week. It was incredible. So every morning for an hour, we meet up, and we still do it now. We meet up for an hour and we stretch.
Yeah.
We were training together virtually online, 3 days a week. And it just having those small basics in place and that structure really just almost put my mind at rest. I could tackle all the other things in the knowledge that actually my training is still going in the right direction.
Yeah.
albeit we've had to change it slightly. You know, we were doing meditation sessions, we were working on our affirmations,
Yeah.
um, you know, just positive self-talk, you know, literally just taking time out. The best thing I did, actually, the most useful thing I did, was actually invested in a yoga mat at the beginning of
Oh,
lockdown.
you did? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And it's literally been like just my place of like solace.
Yeah.
Honestly, I get up before the kids, I lay it out, and we just do our thing. We just do our stretch.
Yeah.
And it's just been my time, you know. And I think that's one piece of advice I would give to the people listening, really. Just carving out space in your day for you, you
Yeah.
know, checking in with yourself, having that moment. You know, for us, it was working on meditation, it was working on being calm, being in the present. So all of that mindfulness,
Mm.
um, and actually just flipping that over into visualization stuff as well, and how that kind of works for us in terms of actually supporting our goals within karate, within the sport, still pushing towards the Olympic Games,
Yeah.
and actually managing that and just keeping that sanity, if you like, and that strength of mind,
Yeah.
was quite a big one for me, actually, definitely. But yeah, structure, spending time with the kids, you know, lots of kind of walks out in the local forest and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I even invested in a little scooter to keep up with my kids. You know, a little,
Oh, did you?
yeah, yeah, one of those little pedal scooters.
That's really
Um,
nice.
it was incredible, honestly. New pair of skates as well, and we just literally just been trying to have fun and make time as a family and for myself, really. So just carving out time and being um, quite strict with that time.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah,
My
it's been
sister,
important.
she's
Painting. My sister's online actually, and she said painting. Don't forget
oh
painting.
painting. Oh,
So
my sister does painting too. That was one of
that's
her
she.
kind of like outlets.
Oh, nice, nice. She's
My
laughing
elder
now.
sister, she just yoga every morning without fail. And our
Mm.
dogs join in with her as well. They literally, when they see
Serious?
she gets her mat out, they just jump on the mat and they're ready to start off with her.
Yeah, sounds like my kids. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, my dad invested in a second electric bike during lockdown.
Nice.
So then he was like, right, girls, come on, everyone, cycling. So we were all doing all cycling and stuff. It was really fun. I mean, it was really enjoyable.
Brilliant, brilliant. That's interesting, isn't it? Like on the whole painting thing, there's a guy in, I don't know if you're based in London, but there's a guy in kind of Muswell Hill area, and he does like these cheese and wine kind of painting events.
Ah,
But he's been doing them virtually, and my wife introduced me to it actually. And my sister joined one the other day, and it was
oh,
incredible,
wow.
really, really good.
You need
And
to
just
send the
like,
name.
yeah, I'll send it through. What's it called? I'll put the link when I post the video. I'll add it into the link.
Oh,
But
brilliant. Yeah.
yeah, really, really good. I think the last one we did actually was Bob Marley. I won't show you mine.
Oh,
Um, yeah, my wife did an incredible one. It was really good, and my sister did as well.
oh, okay.
Mine came out a bit worse for wear. So yeah.
That's so cool. I need to join in and do one as well myself. And my sisters would love that as well.
I like that. I like that. Brilliant.
Okay, so we have some questions for you. So
Okay.
people have sent some questions in, and we may get some on our live as well now. So I'll keep an eye
Brilliant.
out for that. So one of the first questions we have is, what do you do if you're leading up to a competition and you get a flare up?
That happens quite regularly for me, actually. So, like on the surface, it can be quite nerve-wracking to a certain extent in terms of you put everything into your preparation for an event, and at the last minute, if you do get a flare up, you kind of have less control over your body in the sense of what you can do.
Yeah.
Um, but to be honest, like I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, so much of my mindset, I've been doing this for many years now, and like so much of my mindset is about actually putting myself in the situation.
Yeah.
And as long as I get to the mat to compete, I will compete well.
Yeah.
And the adrenaline will take over. And I won't be focused on necessarily what I can and can't do as much. However, one thing I've noticed just generally with injuries throughout my kind of sporting career is that to a certain extent, they kind of focus you in.
Yeah.
So you do less of the flat, fancy stuff that you might do if you were feeling 100%, like the spinning kicks for me, for example, and sweeps and stuff like that. But actually, you're focusing on actually what works, what the
Yeah.
essentials are, what needs to be done, and actually doing those things well. And in all honesty, quite often I find that when I do that, I compete better anyway.
Okay.
So it's kind of for me is those two things. Like I said, I don't negotiate with the fact that I'm going to be at the event. I'm doing it anyway, whether you
Yeah.
like it or not,
Yeah.
body,
Yeah.
you know, it's happening. So it becomes less about whether I'm going to do it, but actually how I
How?
maneuver, negotiate with myself about actually performing on the mat
Yeah.
in an elite event. Um, and it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because again, lupus is kind of an invisible illness to a certain extent, and it all is happening on the inside,
Yeah.
and nobody can see that, you know. So there are times when I'm in the warm up area and I feel it, but nobody else knows it.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, Anyone who knows me knows I'm quite vocal within the sport when I'm in the environment, if you like, a lot of kind of shouts and gearing up and ready to go, you
Yeah.
know, positive kind of sporting arrogance, if you like, as my sports psychologist calls it. But like, and I think partly in preparing for this talk, I just kind of link those two together really. And I think that's probably actually a part of how I cope and
Yeah.
is a part of actually getting myself to the mat. Once I get myself to the mat and they announce my name and it's Jamaica, come out, da da da, and I walk out in front of however many thousands of people to compete, the last thing I think about is my ankle, my back, or it's I kind of use that to my advantage, I would
Yeah.
say. Yeah.
We've got a question come up on the live. So, okay, so it says really inspiring talk, Alton. Really love that you're into mindfulness. So, which books are you reading at the moment, if you are reading any?
I am actually, I just finished one, and embarrassingly, I can't remember the title of it. I am so basically reading lots of books, and just off the back of kind of Black Lives Matter,
Yeah.
and all the stresses that have kind of been happening all over the world, really. Actually, just getting in touch with that side of me a little bit more, and actually trying to understand what's going on around me.
Yeah.
Afua Hirsch as well is somebody who I really look up to and am inspired by. David Olusoga and his book at the moment about Black British history. Just started that the other day, but really my focus has been less on like books around sport and athlete development and positive mindsets and stuff, and actually have just focused much more on what's going on around me and the Black Lives Matter movement, and actually understanding my place within that, how I advocate for people, how I advocate for myself.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine who's on now, two of them actually, Sakura and Cheryl Murphy. They started an online platform called Karate for Change. And so together, kind of, we've been doing online talks and exploring issues, but definitely any book by Afua Hirsch
Yeah.
is super inspiring for me.
Okay, cool.
Her book called, the book that I read is called British, and it's Brit with kind of brackets ish, and it just explores what it means to be British as an ethnic minority, really. Yeah, which is really interesting, really, really interesting. I recommend everybody has a little read of it, without a doubt.
Yeah, I think people will. I mean, especially now with everything that's happening, I think a lot of people are more they're educating themselves way more, and it's brilliant. I mean, now especially
100%.
Black History Month, there's so
Yeah.
many shows on TV. I mean, I'm watching a few myself, and it's just really, it's very interesting to watch, and it's a great way to educate yourself.
It's just really empowering as well, isn't it? And it's just about, it just reminds me actually, and one of the things that we spoke about in our Karate for Change talk is representation.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm all about that. That is me all over. I try to use my journey to inspire people,
Yeah.
I try to empower people, predominantly young people, to chase their dreams, to not take no for an answer, to push on regardless of the circumstance. You can do it,
100%, yeah.
And that for me is like, I think there's a question that we've got a little bit later on about what keeps me going on those days. In fact, you know what? I'll answer it now. It's a question from Emma.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question, Emma. But like, what keeps me going on those days when I feel less motivated? And it is 100% about representation.
Yeah.
You know, I want to be the best that I can be in order to inspire somebody else, you know, and I feel like as an individual, as a person, as an athlete, as a father, you know, as a husband, just that is where I want to put my energy and my focus. And again, tied into why I'm an ambassador for Lupus UK, really. It's just, I want to be a part of that story and that positive narrative, you know, around inspiring people to do better, to do what you can with the time that you have, you know, in your body, because life is short, you know, make the most of it, inspire who you can, and move on.
We have another live question. I'm just going to scroll back up because I think it just went.
That's okay.
Okay. We've got one. Oh, is it from your sister, I think?
Is it? What she said?
Did you find that eating certain foods, etc., helped you get through flare-ups?
I would say that not explicitly, but what I do is that I try to really focus on nutrition. I mean, anybody who knows me knows that I have a sweet tooth, and I do like my cakes. I blame my mum, maybe a bit of my dad as well, but I'm okay with it. But between me and my wife, actually, we are trying to really focus on eating a lot more veg and actually focus on a bit more of a plant-based diet as opposed to, you know, all of the meat and stuff. I still like fish, but we do have a focus on nutrition. I wouldn't say it's any one thing in particular, but just generally trying to watch what goes into my body. At the moment, I'm really focused on smoothies for breakfast, and literally everything goes into them. A bit of ginger. What else have we got? We've got ginger, chia seeds. We've got oats, a little bit of coconut water, a little bit of normal water. We've got strawberries, cucumber, and we've got spinach, and just really, and honestly, it's really nice. I've turned my wife onto them as well. She's like, yeah, make me one too, please.
Oh, nice.
And just like starting my day like that is just kind of just made me feel like I can attack the day, you know, and just really supports the training that I do. You know, it's quite interesting, actually. I'd say, I know that there are some studies out there and stuff that kind of link kind of flare-ups and stuff to dairy products, and I am a little bit allergic to dairy. So I try where possible not to eat dairy just because. But just generally, I do try to keep a bit of a balanced, healthy diet, really. Try to reserve those treats for the weekend.
I saw a TV, I think it was a film actually on Netflix called Game Changers. Yeah, that was very interesting to see, considering the world's strongest man is a vegan. And I was like,
exactly. That kind of blew my mind, actually. And I love that question that they asked him in that. It was like, you know, he said he often has people ask him, you know, how do you get as strong as an ox without eating any meat and stuff, you know? And he goes, when have you ever seen an ox eat meat? And it's like, and it was like, it was a moment. It was a moment. I was like, he's right.
I felt the same way. I was like, what? Oh yeah.
It's funny, isn't it? What you think to what actually is. It's just, I really love that, actually. That was really interesting. But I have a nutritionist as well, actually, and we work quite well together. A lovely lady called Oiku Uman. And she's like brilliant, and she supports myself and a teammate of mine as well, actually, or clubmate of mine. But she's been there over the years, like with recipes and healthier options for baking cakes and everything else, you know. When I have the time, it's brilliant, and I can stick to those. But I do find that it can be challenging in the busy lifestyle that I kind of have, just in terms of combining sport with work, with family. It could be a challenge, but it's definitely a focus.
Cool. So we have another question. So this one is, what is your long-term goal in karate?
So it's funny because if the Olympics took place this year, I would actually be retiring. I would be retiring right now. So my goal was really, and has been for a while, is to work towards the Olympic Games, do my damnedest to qualify for that games,
Yeah.
help put Jamaica on the map in terms of Jamaica karate, which is a massive focus of mine. And then look to support just some young athletes through coaching, really. I don't know if I'd like to do that for a national team.
Okay.
I kind of see myself supporting within international sport, maybe not just focused on karate, but actually sport in general. I love the idea of continuing to do what I'm doing now at moments, but on a bigger scale, which is supporting countries who don't have access to great coaches and access to opportunities to get to the larger Premier League events within our sport, if you like.
Yeah.
And actually just doing my best to kind of help develop people, really. Developing people, that's what I want to do. And if I can do that within karate, which I want to do, then yes. But I think much more broadly, on just a larger scale, being able to do that and being able to have an influence to strengthen people's ability to do better and achieve the successes that they want, really.
Yeah.
Like I'm working with some guys from Barbados at the moment as well. And, you know, some of the young guys, Cody, I think I saw you pop up on here earlier. But like my dream would be to see some of these young guys be able to really produce really good results on the Pan American level and then feature at World Championship level. That would be, for me, fantastic. You know, that's what I want to see.
Yeah.
I would love to see the Caribbean represented more on the podium at international level. I feel like I've supported within England for many years in terms of young people and their development stuff. And again, just being able to do that through the kind of Caribbean route has been, fantastic, really.
Yeah. You've kind of answered the next question, actually.
Did I? What was it about?
It was about your motivation behind representing Jamaica after representing England.
Okay. Yeah. Make it, like, literally just making a difference. I mean, I think the older I get and the more I come to the back end of my career as an athlete, I'm kind of happy that I'm kind of in the driving seat in terms of what do I want to do with my career? What do I want my legacy to be? And actually, if I can make it better for the next person, then that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
You know, like I said earlier, life is short and I want to produce, I want my life to be meaningful, you know? I'm all about having an impact, and if I can do that through my journey, then fantastic. But for me, you know, getting to the Olympic Games is more than just a personal goal for me. It's about, somebody said to me once, right? Somebody said to me, he was an ex-world champion, a guy called Jeff Thompson, really, really great in British karate.
Yeah.
And he said to me once, you know, I was saying to him, I want to become world champion. Can you help? And he refused at one point. He refused because it was less about you wanting to be world champion for you, actually, but what are you going to do with the opportunity once you get there? You know, who is going to benefit as a result of you being world champion?
Yeah.
And you know, just that little piece of advice, although I didn't quite get it at the time, like really, really, really struck a chord with me.
Yeah.
And really, when I look back, has dictated many of the things that I've done since then. You know, it is about who are you lifting up?
Yes.
You know, who is benefiting as a result of your success and stuff. And I think for athletes, sometimes that can be a hard concept to get your head around. And many people say you've got to be selfish as an athlete in order to succeed. And that has just never been, it's never sat right with me. It's never been me.
Yeah.
You know, just the other day we had a fundraiser for the Women's Centre of Jamaica Foundation. And they do some incredible work, like supporting young women within Jamaica who are young but who have become pregnant.
Yeah.
And actually supporting them with their continued education, and, you know, just like success story after success story. And we did an online karate course and we were able to raise a little bit of funds for them, which is fantastic. And just, that's what it's about for me right now.
Yeah.
You know, and as hard as lockdown has been, it gave me the space to actually look internally and actually support my own mental health. But a big part of that was looking at how I can support other people to manage lockdown.
Yeah.
You know, and it was events like that, the Women's Centre. It was supporting some of the development of the Caribbean through this project, and doing things like that. Really, that you're offering online fitness classes for free at one point on Facebook, and just trying to help the community, if you like, to make it through lockdown. So, yeah, there was a lot going on. And it was a challenge,
Yeah.
but it got me through as well, you know?
I
got me
think
through.
you're such a selfless and inspiring person, and I think you definitely, everyone is just so inspired when you talk. We just listen and we're like, wow.
Look, I'm glad, because I was quite nervous about doing this live. So
Oh
yeah,
no, I think
thanks
it's
for
so
coming out and supporting
lovely.
us.
I was so nervous too. I was like, I've never done one.
Oh gosh, it's working out.
Yeah, it is. I think that was actually all our questions we've had today.
Okay,
So
fantastic.
I think we are done with the Q&A. Just Alton,
Brilliant.
thank you ever so much for taking your time out of your busy schedule to be with us today to